Wadhi maber wakwayoni wabede laini ya tiel tafadhali, na tupeane heshima tafadhali, na uwe na mstari moja, na ukishapata nafasi ya kuona mwili tafadhali tunakuomba usonge mbele.
Yeah, those were the elders, and this marks a significant part of the Luo culture, as we had seen, who are also paying their respects to the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, as are the other members of the public, in the ongoing public viewing of the body of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Na bila shaka wakuu wa usalama hapo, maafisa wa usalama ambao wanasimamia shughuli hiyo wana wakati mgumu. Maana ukiangalia umati ambao uko ndani ya uwanja na kuna ule ambao uko nje ya uwanja. Maana kuna wale ambao walikuwa wamefika katika uwanja wa ndege wa kimataifa huko Kisumu ili kusubiria. Maana walikuwa wanatarajia kwamba kutakuwa na msafara hadi katika uwanja wa Jomo Kenyatta Mamboleo, lakini nadhani ilikuwa wazo la busara kuhakikisha kwamba wanamfikisha katika uwanja huu ili kuzuia tu zile heka ambazo tuliziona kutoka JKIA hadi Kasarani, na pia kuhakikisha kwamba kuna muda wa kutosha na kuna mpangilio. Leo tunaona kwamba mambo ni tofauti. Kuna mpangilio katika uwanja wa Jomo Kenyatta kama ilivyokuwa jana, katika uwanja wa Nyayo, tofauti na ilivyokuwa katika uwanja wa Kasarani siku ya Alhamisi.
And as I was saying, Mashirima, there are significant years that in the chronology of the order in which Odinga's life, as we had been doing here since his passing on, he was born the same year as the United Nations, and by the time Kenya gained independence and we were free from the colonial British Empire, Odinga was 18, barely 19 thereabout. He had an understanding of what was going on at the time, and which gives us an insight of what has shaped his ideology and thinking. All right, so let's cross over to Bondo in Siaya County, where the former Prime Minister will be laid to rest, and these are the live pictures that are coming in from where the former Prime Minister will be laid to rest. And of course, this bears Mashirima significance of the handing over, given the activities that await them tomorrow on Sunday. And the body will be staying overnight here ahead of burial, and these are the Council of Elders perhaps performing probably a prayer, or this is a traditional process. So that we can listen into the sound.
Tumekana sisi, tumekuja hapa, tunasherehekea na nyinyi, tuko pamoja, kwamba ni mtu yetu, Mungu amweke pahali pazuri. Thank you. Kiongozi wetu Mudavadi alifanya kazi kubwa, tunayotembea nayo kwa siku ya leo. Tunaleta ng'ombe kutoka kwa waziri wetu Mudavadi wakiwa pamoja na Raila mwenda zake. Ng'ombe iko tayari sasa. Kulingana na kimila, ng'ombe iko sawa. Hadi imepanda. Isirushe na mguu.
Also want to thank our Prime Minister, Prime Cabinet Secretary for this effort. We thank you so much. May God bless you as we go through this exercise.
Naam, zile picha ambazo unaziona hivi sasa kwenye runinga yako ni kutoka Bondo, kaunti ya Siaya, ambapo viongozi kutoka jamii ya Waluya wameweza kufika kutoa mafahali ambao watatumika kwenye hafla ambayo inaendelea ya mazishi ya Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. Tunaarifiwa kwamba mafahali hawa ni kikundi cha kwanza cha mafahali ambao wameletwa hapo kutoka kwa mkuu wa mawaziri ambaye ni Musalia Mudavadi, na kwa wale ambao wanaelewa masuala ya tamaduni za Waluya ni kwamba wakati ambapo kuna matanga lazima kuna fahali ambaye ataletwa. Kulingana na uelewa wangu kidogo ni kwamba katika boma ambalo limefiliwa ikiwa ni mama ambaye amefariki, basi wakwe wake watahakikisha kwamba mtu yote ambaye ameoa katika familia hiyo ataleta fahali. Lakini hapa nadhani itabidi tuende kwa Sam Gituku ili aweze kutueleza kwa mapana na marefu wakati ambapo na Joseph Bonyo, wakati ambapo ni mzee wa boma amefariki, hawa mafahali wanaletwa kwa misingi gani? Na nadhani ni jambo la kitamaduni ambalo linatuonyesha jinsi tamaduni ni tofauti hapa nchini Kenya, haswa wakati ambapo mtu wa haiba ya Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga anapofariki.
And here's the thing, because we were talking about then how the former Prime Minister has transcended many political environments. And by the time we had gained independence, he was, as I have said, 18, 19, and which had possibly informed his or shaped his way of thinking and seeing the global worldview at the time when we were about to get into the very intense years of the Cold War, and preceded by, of course, many events which included the passing on of Kenya's first president, Jomo Kenyatta, in 1978. And when, upon the ascendancy to power of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, following, of course, the succession battle within the independent KANU party, and the buffer at the time that was accorded Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. But 4 years later, the events of 1982 had changed the course of history in Kenya, officially becoming a one-party state, an agenda that was pushed in Parliament by then Attorney General Charles Njonjo and then Vice President Mwai Kibaki. That set of series of activities which culminated with the struggle for multipartyism and Kenya becoming a multi-party democracy, which included not only the 1982 coup, but what it kicked off as a result, and the consequences which had spread over to late 1980s as Odinga was in jail, the underground movement that was blocking itself away from the operations of the special branch that was very dreaded and was put in good use by the KANU government to check on the opposition, to clamp down on dissent, possibly extinguishing all the voices that had opposed the KANU government at the time, given the political radicalism around KANU then, you could imagine, which had culminated in the crescendo of activities not only in Kenya but also in the world in the late 1980s with the regime changes that were happening and the call, the clamor for governance change across the world, and what then marked the collapse of the Berlin Wall, leading to the unification of East and West Germany, and also the many activities in Europe, which perhaps informed the move by those who are pushing for multipartyism to get some energy to boost their call in pressuring President Moi and KANU to open up the democratic space and allow more political parties to join in the fray leading to the elections in 1992. But Odinga was, of course, part of the many Kenyans who some paid with their lives, the sacrifice, in the push to attain that status. Thereafter, of course, the exile that he went into, how he describes that in his book, and making that very perilous journey to Uganda, that is across Lake Victoria, interestingly, before he was granted asylum, and coming back to the country later. But his peers, Gitobo Imanyara, the others, the long list of Kenyans who were in the dugout with him, calling for reforms, and at the time what was much of a priority was the multipartyism and the election that followed in 1992. All this credited to the man lying in the casket there, and the thousands who have been supporting him throughout the course of what Odinga had believed in, the ideology he stood for, not your normal politician, because the principles that drove him were unique, and up until his death, as you can see, 20 years as the leader of the ODM party, and resigning as an MP after 1995-96, seeking fresh mandate from the people because of the differences he had with the party that he at the time belonged to. So it's interesting how this has all happened, and he maintained the constant political influence, which hasn't changed at that optimum level following the exponential growth that he had politically, and now the culmination of Odinga's political influence. Of course, with his death, but what the future holds for the political party remains uncertain, given the person he was and the influence he wielded as the individual around who everything was shaped and everything had happened, and therefore, which perfectly explains why then all these people had been following him, not because of what he displayed, what many would display today within the political arena in terms of the cash that they walk around with in political rallies, but how he had managed to influence them through his political capital in ensuring that they had rallied around him and his cause. And that informs today why then all this, as we had seen yesterday, look at the long list of those who had sent in their official condolences. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Paul Kagame, the Ethiopian Prime Minister, Djibouti President Ismail Omar Gele, Hakainde Hichilema Zambia, Bola Ahmed Tinubu Nigeria, John Mahama Burundi, Evariste Ndayishimiye Burundi, John Mahama Ghana, Evariste Ndayishimiye Burundi, Julius Maada Sierra Leone, Emerson Mnangagwa Zimbabwe, the Gambia Adama Barrow, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa South Africa, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Felix Tshisekedi, and look at the organization, Antonio Guterres, the African Union Commission, the EU delegation. These are people who knew Raila from close experience, and they knew what he stood for, the socialism in him, which had driven equity, and therefore which explains why then we are celebrating this man that we never had as our president. But certainly all the Kenyan presidents and commentators would agree with me have won political power, but it's only Raila Odinga who has won the people.
Naam. Alikuwa bila shaka ameteka mioyo ya Wakenya, alikuwa ameteka mioyo ya hata raia kutoka mataifa mengine. Maka ukiangalia jinsi ambavyo watu wamejitokeza kwa wingi, ukiangalia mikutano ya hadhara ya kisiasa wakati huu, utapata kuna taarifa nyingi zinazotoka kwamba watu wanatolewa kutoka eneo moja kwenda lingine ili kuweza kujaza viwanja na vitu kama hivyo. Lakini kwa mheshimiwa Raila Odinga ni watu tu wanamfuata kwa sababu wanaaminia yale maadili ambayo amekuwa akiyazungumzia. Na maadili yake sio tu ya kusema. Yeye ndio unaweza kusema alikuwa wa kusema na kutenda. Na bila shaka tukiangalia hata jinsi ambavyo mataifa mengine yameweza kuomboleza na taifa la Kenya, ukiangalia wanamuziki kutoka mataifa mbalimbali ambao kila mmoja ametunga wimbo wa kumwenzi mheshimiwa Raila, kumpa mkono wa buriani mheshimiwa Raila, na pia kuangalia tu jinsi ambavyo kisiasa kuanzia mwanzo hadi wakati wa kifo chake, ni kiongozi ambaye japo vyama vilibadilika kuanzia Ford hadi NDP hadi KANU hadi ODM, japo amebadili vyama, maadili yake amesimama nayo. Na ukiangalia tu baadhi ya jumbe ambazo zimeweza kutolewa na haswa viongozi kutoka mataifa mbalimbali, waziri mkuu wa India akisema kwamba alikuwa rafiki wake wa karibu na alifurahia ama alikuwa mtu ambaye alikuwa wa maadili. Ukiangalia ujumbe kutoka kwa mwenyekiti wa tume ya AUC akisema kwamba alikuwa mwanasiasa tajika katika siasa za Kenya, na alikuwa kiongozi ambaye alishabikia masuala ya demokrasia na utawala ambao ulikuwa unalenga kuleta maendeleo kwa nchi. Ukiangalia pia ujumbe kutoka kwa rais wa Zambia Hakainde Hichilema akisema kwamba amesikitishwa na kufariki kwa mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, na akitoa rambirambi zake kwa familia ya mheshimiwa Raila pamoja na Rais William Ruto. Na jumbe zote ambazo zinatolewa hata kutoka kwa rais wa Ufaransa akisema kwamba ujasiri wa mheshimiwa Raila, jinsi ambavyo alisimama na maadili ya demokrasia, ni jambo ambalo linashabikiwa kote ulimwenguni. Nadhani ni funzo kwa viongozi wetu kuweza kuangalia kwamba huyu ni mtu ambaye kama ambavyo imetajwa katika baadhi ya magazeti, ni mtu ambaye angekuwa rais wa Kenya lakini hakupatiwa fursa hiyo. Lakini angalia jinsi watu wanavyojitokeza kumpatia heshima za mwisho.
And it cuts across. Look at the representation of the ODM mosaic in Parliament. It's a party with representation across the country, and which explains to you how he was focused on the political party as mechanisms and avenues not only to get or draw the mandate or power from the people, but also help shape the country in the right direction. And these are the waters Odinga had managed to navigate through in times of difficulty, and with so much steadfastness and with a lot of humility, and also the much needed stability in making sure that the murky waters do not affect in any way the ship of reform that he and his supporters have always been aboard until its final stop in India. And his body, when brought back to the country aboard the Kenya Airways flight that we had seen at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, you had seen how the masses had gathered around the belly of the aircraft that had the remains of the former Prime Minister, just to get a glimpse of the man who was lying in that coffin, and how, despite the immense, of course, and the heightened security around him, they managed to be there. And the orientation of the military had allowed them to do so, given the man they had so much believed in. And Parliament, that later on the planning team established that would be unable to accommodate the number of people who had gathered outside it. And that was minus those who were coming with the procession from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and those who had gathered at the Lee Funeral Home, prompting a change in the events of Thursday this week, all pointing to a man who had the look like any other political player, but beneath him had the influence that had transcended generations. And his demise, and after tomorrow, when he will be laid to rest in Bondo, Siaya County, will certainly mark a new era of Kenyan politics on many fronts. One is and what then happens to the party, because his word was what had